So another major reason why genetically modified organisms should not be used is because of the secrecy and bias towards the GMOs when it comes to big business and federal regulations. The Food and Drug Administration was created solely to regulate and make sure all food is safe. Yet when it comes to genetically modified organisms, the FDA hits a blank spot. Genetically modified foods are not labeled in the United States because the biotech industry is convinced the Food and Drug Administration that GM crops are not substantially different from conventional varieties. The FDA, however, does no independent testing for human or animal safety and relies strictly on the research conducted by manufacturers of the products. The main GMO producer, Monsanto, makes it nearly impossible for independent scientists to study GM needs. Source J. The statement not only shows the bias of relying on a company's independent research, but also shows the secrecy of not labeling their products as GMO. If one was to look at the research done by all these companies, they would find that this research is all clear and everything is okay. But the hypocrisy of these findings is certainly a warning sign. If all these tests have come out positive, then why not label these products as GMO? Aren't they supposed to be better? Has the company themselves become dubious of their own investigations? Also, countries a part of the European Union have all GMOs labeled, and some countries outlaw GMOs altogether, like Japan and Ireland, also in Source J. It is estimated that 75% of all food is genetically modified, Source H. That's 3/4 of our food that we unknowingly put into our bodies with the addition of biased testing that claims all this mutant food is safe. It can also be stated that nearly 75% of people want GMOs to be labeled in American markets, Source L. If people want these GMOs labeled, then why aren't they? Maybe these companies know something the public doesn't. Maybe these superfoods aren't so super after all.
Thanks. 2 minutes. Rebuttal?
Sorry, we had a tissue issue.
So I feel like the problem that you were stating is that the GMOs aren't being labeled, but that's not what we're arguing today. We're arguing that they should be able to be used. And if they were more like widespread and used more, then there would be regulations from companies like the FDA or organizations like the FDA, which would like provide rules that had to be set in place. And then we don't claim that that any of these problems like world hunger will be solved immediately, but we can get people disease-free and things like that with quicker and cheaper ways using GMOs.
Additionally, returning to the issue of Monsanto seeds, I'm not seeing any real argument against GMOs here. All I'm seeing is an argument against a corrupt business following corrupt business practices. If we want to solve the issue caused by Monsanto, fine, but that has nothing to do with GMO usage.
And if the seeds are breaking farmers so bad, then why are there still over 14 million farmers using them if they can't afford them?
Okay, 1 minute exactly. Point 4, pro.
There's more at stake here than just world hunger. We could save the world itself. Our planet is in danger. Pollution threatens the environment as we know it, putting the entire biosphere at risk. But GMOs could prove to be a vital piece of the stratagem that ends the war on pollution forever. We know that insects threaten crops, but the use of pesticide is dangerous not only to humans, but the environment. Let's use the infamous example of DDT, a chemical originally synthesized to control malaria during the second half of World War II. It became widely used as an agricultural herbicide in the years to come. However, in addition to claims that it was carcinogenic, it became notorious for its effect on bird eggs, rendering them they thinned the shells of birds that came into contact with it, often through consuming fish in waters that were contaminated by runoff. This led to both the near extinction of bald eagles and nearly the loss of all peregrine falcons in the United States until it was banned. However, while the pesticide companies did not stop making pesticides, they simply created pesticides that were less dangerous in the same dosage. As Source A points out, the adoption of GM insect-resistant and herbicide-tolerant technology has reduced pesticide spraying by 553 million kilograms. So the usage of GMOs drastically reduced the usage of pesticides, notorious for affecting wildlife, killing off entire lakes, and posing a threat to the environment as we know it. With the effects that GMOs have on the usage of pesticides, is it any wonder that pesticide companies are willing to pay people to look for evidence against the usage of GMOs, no matter how tenuous their claims of the dangers may be?
1 minute, 54 seconds. Rebuttal.
Going back to the rebuttal off of our last point, if you're saying that GMOs should be used and you're saying that they're safe, and if they're safe, why aren't they willingly labeled on packaging?
Exactly, and also genetically modified products have actually been seen to contain toxins and are either deadly or cancer causing.
And it has been shown that monarch butterflies are dying off because the milkweed has been cross-pollinated with BT corn, which is a GMO corn. This cross-pollination of these two foods made the milkweed toxic for the butterflies and thus start killing them off.
Yes.
Going back to what we're saying about how much land GMO-produced foods take up, in 2010, it was 365.56 million acres of land. That is over twice the size of Texas, if you get that in perspective. And think about how large the size of Texas is. And that was in 2010. That was almost 10 years ago. So you have to think about how much land, or how much damage is being done to the land, and if the land is able to sustain that kind of cultivation.
Okay, 1 minute. Point 5. Pro. Or con, sorry.
It is known and should be known that the use of GMOs are unhealthy and should not be incorporated in future eating habits. GMOs have been tested on numerous animals. One in particular, researchers tested the GMOs on rats. In most rats, it has been recorded that new tumors have been formed within their bodies. The female rats that ate the genetically modified potatoes also show a hindrance in the development of their pups. It is prevalent that the foods that are genetically modified need herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides to flourish because of the lack of genetic diversity. So this is source I. It is common sense that the consumption of these three different poisons are unhealthy and even deadly. Also, gene splicing can increase the magnitude of an allergic reaction. As an example, Brazil had gene spliced a nut gene into a soybean, which changed what would have been a mild allergic reaction to sudden death. Even though the effects of GMOs are not completely solidified, the tests have shown a dangerous and threatening path. The hope of ending world hunger is a ruse to gather support for GMOs because when investigated more thoroughly, it is easy to unearth the harmful effects towards the human body. Additionally, the evidence that exposes corporations for attempting to cover up any negative outcomes of GMOs and that proves them to be unhealthy is a stratagem. A stratagem used to blind the public of the dark reality of what is known as GMOs.
1 minute, 36 seconds. Rebuttal.
Okay, so GMOs have also been known to eliminate toxins that cause esophageal cancer and birth defects. And the main culprit for mass food poisoning has been the contamination of unprocessed crops by fungal toxins.
Also, it's a fact that GMOs can produce healthier and more crops with the same amount of land as organic farming would need.
Additionally, regarding the labeling of GMOs, the reason that they aren't labeled has little to do with any perceived threat, but rather to do with people's perceptions of labeling. If we mandate the labeling of something, people are going to assume that it's being mandated because it's dangerous. Therefore, they'll be less likely to buy it, and understandably, people are not eager to have their products so defaced.
All right, 47 seconds. Point 5.
Just saying that you are for or against GMOs is an ignorant statement. But it's better to be for them and allow them for new innovations and disease-fighting crops to be created. It is pure hypocrisy for our opponents to say that GMOs are bad for our health. And also, we are not here to argue whether they should be labeled, but whether they should be used. We have been using GMOs for years and years now, and we are the healthiest and longest living generation to ever live, source B. Already stated, the golden rice crop, a genetically modified crop that has large amounts of vitamin A in it, in which vitamin A leads to the chance of surviving against disease in impoverished parts of the world. Vitamin A allows for those who have trouble to get access to vitamin A an easier way to get it through the golden rice crop. Also, virus-resistant papaya. Scientists in Hawaii developed a crop of papaya that is resistant, that is not only resistant but actively fights the rain spot virus when eaten. A future of a healthier nation of people that will live longer and better is possible if we use GMOs. GMOs should not only be allowed, but they should be embraced.
Okay, 53 seconds. Rebuttal.
Organic products are labeled as a proud fact, and that doesn't decrease their purchases. If anything, they increase it because it's such a positive reinforcement. So why aren't GMOs labeled?
And adding to that, most developed nations do not consider GMOs to be safe and have significant restrictions or outright bans on the production and sale of GMOs. The U.S. and Canadian governments, though, have approved GMOs based on studies conducted by the same corporations that created them and profit them for sale. 64 countries around the world, including Australia, Japan, and all other countries in the European Union, require genetically modified foods to be labeled. While a 2015 ABC News survey found that 93% of Americans believe genetically modified food should be labeled, GMOs are not required to be labeled in the U.S. and Canada. In the absence of mandatory labeling, the non-GMO project was created to give consumers this informed choice that they deserve.
Also, genetically engineered products are unpredictable and could be a possible threat to animals, humans, and the environment, especially because it's such a recent study.
Exactly 1 minute. Okay, I'm going to give